Get ready, guys, because this video might be a little bit controversial. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic ballet steps in all of the vocabulary, one that is often done at the end of pas de deux, and usually predominantly by women in pointe shoes. But that doesn't mean that men can't or don't do it in the repertoire as well. It's a step that we all have to learn and all have to perform at some point. And so today, I'm going to be breaking down the Fouetté Pirouette. If you're ready to learn the fundamentals, the skills that build up to it, and the 5 tips that I give to all of my students when teaching Fouettés, let's dive in and let's get ready to whip. The Fouetté is one of the most iconic steps because it is often done at the end of the ballet. It's usually the principal ballerina who's coming on stage and doing 32 Fouettés in the middle of the coda. In ballets like Swan Lake and Don Quixote, and even in ballets like Nutcracker and Les Corsaires, the 32 Fouetté sequence is one of the most recognizable steps that we do in ballet. These days, it's also the focus of highlight reels, Instagram videos, and tips and tricks on how to do this because kids all over the world are wanting to show their prowess at being able to do these Fouettés. Of course, it's not just for kids. Adult dancers can do this too. So we're going to break down the fundamentals, the steps that build up to the Fouetté, the different types of Fouettés that you can do, and then I'm going to give you 5 tips that you can do to help improve your Fouettés with the right amount of practice and consistency. So let's start with the meaning of this step. What does Fouetté mean? Fouetté means whip or whipping action. They have different types of Fouettés within ballet. We have our Fouetté that goes from devant to arabesque, or from arabesque to devant. We have our Italian Fouettés, and of course, our Fouetté Pirouettes. Now, it's important to understand that there are 2 main technical ways that Fouettés are performed. One of them tends to be more attributed to the English style, and the other one tends to be more attributed to the Russian style. The Russian style Fouettés tend to be very rapid, with the leg opening to the side, retiré coming behind, changing to the front in pirouette, and then opening back out to the side and continuing through that movement, kind of like this. Whereas our English-style Fouettés are more akin to what the Russians would call a Temps Relevé, where we're going through a rond and then in, something like this. Each Fouetté has its place, and the different techniques will look different depending on the ballet that you're dancing, as well as the companies that you're going to watch. You may find more Russian-style dancers or more English or European-style dancers. Neither one is incorrect, but each one has steps that build up to it. Can you guess where we start our training for our Fouettés? If you guessed at the bar, you got it right. Everything starts from the bar. Depending on which style of Fouetté we're doing, there are different exercises that are going to impact it more. When it comes to our Russian style of Fouetté, where we're opening out to the side, coming back front and open, we can do exactly that type of pirouette at the bar, but we can also do a flick-flock. The flick-flock is going to open, come back, flick, open. And while the practice is not directly related to the Fouetté, that rapid back front open is exactly the same patterning in the legs, and so developing the speed in your flick-flocks will also help you to develop the speed in your Fouettés. For our English-style Fouettés, the Temps Relevé is actually going to help to develop the coordination necessary to find the rond de jambe for our turns. In a Temps Relevé, we bring our leg into retiré, we plie into attitude devant. Now you can see that my knee is not above 90 degrees. We want it to be at the same height as it would have come from our retiré. From there, you're going to expand your leg out through écarté, around to the side, and then increase the rotation and pull the knee back as you go into your pirouette. Something like this. Retiré, plie attitude, rond de jambe, and knee back. Practicing this pathway and doing it at the bar, where you can grab on at the end and support your balance, it's going to help you to develop the coordination in the legs before we take it into center and try anything without that support. Now, there are 2 other exercises that I think are absolutely fundamental to understanding the rotation and movement of the legs for this step. First one is, of course, your Fondu, where you're bending both legs together and stretching at the same time. Bending and stretching. This development of control in your legs on one leg is going to help to develop the strength you need to do one leg movements in the center. So don't forget about your fondus and also the rotation in that movement. And the next step is rond de jambe en l'air. This little rotation that we do in the knee as we come from second into the calf and forward is going to help to find the rotation necessary in your legs as we pull in from the side into the pirouette, especially for our English style fouettés. So what are some of the common mistakes that I see in a fouetté that are actually holding dancers back from being able to achieve their best sequencing and best movement patterns? First biggest one is stretching the leg exactly to the front as we come around. What tends to happen when the leg stretches straight to the front is that it turns in, going something like this. And then as the leg goes to the side, we tend to tilt away from it because it becomes very difficult to hold. The leg goes behind, and then we have to bring our body back over this way in order for it to continue. So my fix for this issue, and the first thing that I tell students to do when developing their fouettés, is from their pirouette, and especially for the English style, to plie into attitude, the same way that we would for our temps relevé at the bar. From this attitude position, we're going to extend the leg out through this écarté line here, increasing the rotation of our standing leg and keeping our body centered over the midline of our standing foot as the leg goes to the side. So it's almost like this leg, the standing knee, is pushing more open as the attitude leg is extending and pushing open in the opposite direction, creating this wide circle with both sides of our body. At the same time, our elbow is connected to our knee, the same way it is in all of our pirouettes, and they open together to the side before we circle to come into the turn. Step one is all about creating rotation from the attitude through to the à la seconde, knee coming back into the turn. The second mistake that I often see dancers make when learning fouettés is they try to rise up before they found that à la seconde position. So they're going into their turn, and they're going up and then trying to pull in from there. While this isn't necessarily wrong, unless you've developed the balance and the strength to be able to hold it, it's going to be very difficult, and it will often slow you down, especially if you're trying to develop speed in your turns. So instead of going up with the à la seconde, I tell dancers to stay in the plie until they've reached the pinnacle of their leg to the side, and then as their knee starts to come around, that's when the rise happens, so that their standing leg stretches at the exact same time that their working leg bends, almost like a perfectly functioning piston machine, one side stretching, one side bending in opposition. Third challenge that dancers often struggle with is the rhythm. And because they're changing where they're rising, changing their balance point, their rhythm doesn't stay the same for the entire duration of their fouettés. Musicality is key when it comes to your fouettés. And often, if you think about the music that you're going to have for a fouetté, bum 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 bum, you're going to have a very strict either up or down rhythm that has to be maintained in order to have consistency throughout your turns. The Russian method tends to have more of a down rhythm where we're accenting the out with the plie, whereas the English one tends to have more of an up into the pirouette. So where your one is what you're going to be accenting, whether you're going out and down on one or up and into the turn on one. If it's changing every time you turn and you're not staying consistent with that rhythm, your turns are going to fall apart. So find the accent and stick with it, either up or down, and don't change whether you're going up or down while you're doing the turns. Number 4 comes down to energy. How your leg is moving away from your body and coming back will determine whether you end up traveling around the space or staying on the spot. When dancers don't get their leg from the attitude all the way to the second, what ends up happening often when they get tired is they'll get to about here and they'll pull in from this diagonal front. When that happens, they often travel towards that leg, causing them to move diagonally downstage. So the 4th key kind of relates to an earlier one, which is make sure that leg gets all the way side before you start to turn, because if it's not, you're going to end up traveling. And of course, the last tip when it comes to your fouetté turns has to do with your spot. If your spot is changing because you're traveling, you're hitting different points throughout the turn, you're moving around, then it's going to be very difficult to maintain your balance, especially if you're tired at the end of a pas de deux or you just don't have the energy to get through 32. If your spot doesn't stay consistent, eyes refocusing on the same point every time, you're going to struggle to be able to maintain your fouettés for more than 5 or 6. Now, what I want to do is give you guys a few exercises that we can do that are based in historical ballet training to help you to develop your fouettés so that when you come into the center and you have to start doing them in sequence, you're already there ready to go. First exercise is sequential pirouettes from 5th. So these pirouettes build up and it takes time, but you want to start with just 2. Starting in 5th, plie open the arm. As you do, you turn, plie, turn, finish. Then we go to the other side. Turn, plie, turn, finish. The point here is that you have to go quickly from the retiré to the 5th and back to the retiré. And when you do this, your arm opens to match the leg opening if you were to then go and do your fouettés. So you go pirouette, plie, finish. And over time, as you can do that consistently with 2, add 3, add 4, add 5, build up to 16 before you start working on your fouettés. A few keys about this exercise. It's not a slow rise. One heel comes down and then the other. We almost want to, without actually jumping, get quickly to the retiré, quickly back to 5th. Quickly, 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 quickly. Working on that speed up to the retiré and back to that 5th position. That way you're developing that rhythm that we talked about just before to help your fouettés run consistently. The pirouettes from 5th will help to develop the speed and the rhythm, but this next exercise helps to develop the strength in your leg so that you can hold it while you're doing your fouetté turns. It's an exercise that most dancers know well, but hate with just as much passion, and it's called Divisé en court. We start with our feet in 5th position, and almost like an adagio, we go 5, 6, 7, 8. Développé 1, 2, plie front 3, 4, rond side 5, 6, heel down 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see I'm maybe a little bit out of shape, but that's the way the combination goes. And the slower you do it, the more controlled you are, the better you find your balance, the stronger your fouettés will be in the long run. Take your time, work on staying up, develop that leg in à la seconde and the strength in that position to help your fouettés down the road. Working on those 2 drills, your pirouettes from 5th and your divisé en court is going to help to develop the speed and control in your legs, as well as the strength to be able to hold the leg at any point throughout the turn. Once you've mastered your pirouettes from 5th and your divisé en court is getting quite strong, we can add in some pirouettes in attitude. So we start to develop the understanding of this alignment for our turns and holding that position throughout the duration of a sequential turn. So starting from 4th position and going attitude, pirouette, 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 pirouette. The key here being to come all the way back around, plie, and then continue into the pirouette. I wouldn't add this one in until you've developed the strength from 5th and the strength in your divisé en court. Now, you've gotten that strength, you've worked on your divisé, you've worked on your pirouettes and attitude, and you're getting pretty strong, being able to find the rhythm consistently on one leg, being able to hold your leg in the position, being able to even rise up and stay with your leg in à la seconde in your divisé. As you do this, you're then going to want to start to implement the Temps Relevé style fouettés or the open in fouettés, depending on which style you're being trained in a sequence of turns. First thing we want to do is build one pirouette, fouetté, into another pirouette and finish. So you start simply and you go pirouette, fouetté, pirouette, finish. Or pirouette, open, finish, depending on which style you're using. Once you can do that consistently 5 times without falling over, add another sequence. So you do pirouette, fouetté, pirouette, finish. And you just keep building and stacking over time. Your first milestone is going to be 4 in a row. Your next one is 8, then 12, then 16. And if you can do 16, all you have to do is double that to get to 32. It's definitely easier said than done, but if you know you can do 16, all you have to do is another 16, and breaking it down in those small chunks is going to make it digestible and possible for you to achieve. So a little bit of a recap. There are many different styles of fouetté. There's different ways that we can approach this. There are even different exercises built into our bar work and our center work that are developing your fouettés without actually having to practice them specifically. Pay close attention to your fondus for your single leg strength, your rond de jambe en l'air for your circling of your leg, your flick-flock for your front back, and your temps relevé for your fouetté style turn at the bar. Coming into center, develop the control and the rhythm of your pirouettes from 5th. Take that control and utilize it in your divisé en court to develop structure and specific placement as you're turning from front to side, side to back. Start to find the rhythm of your turns on one leg by bringing your leg into attitude and doing sequential turns in attitude. And then depending on which style you're training in, start to build from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, 12, and all the way up to 32 over time, building the strength, the rhythm, and the control. Avoid bringing your leg up to 90 degrees because 90 degrees for a fouetté means that when you get to the side, your leg's going to pull in and you're probably going to drop because almost nobody has a retiré with a knee at 90 degrees. Coordinate your arms so that your arms are working together, whether they're opening out to the side for our Russian style or connecting the elbow and stirring with your starting arm to bring you around and then continuing into the first position for our more English style. At the end of the day, fouettés are a very advanced step, take lots of time and specific practice to develop and are not something that are going to come instantaneously. It's important that you take the time at the beginning of your training to establish the correct patterns, the correct rhythm, and the correct understanding of your body so that when you get into this very difficult step, you don't build bad patterns that you then have to try to reverse out of later. As you go through your practice, let me know down in the comments which one of these exercises you struggle with the most and which one you'd like me to dive into a little bit more. I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial on fouettés, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Let me know what else you're struggling with, what challenges you have, and I'll make new videos to help you guys with your ballet training. And remember to practice for many years.